5-5. Remember, we're skipping 5-4, so we're on to 5-5 slope-intercept form, part 1. This is going to be 2 parts. It was just going to be so long and so much crammed in if it was one video that I was afraid I would lose all of you along the way. So part 1 tonight, part 2 tomorrow night. Let's get started. You guys know that you can graph a line if you know 2 points on the line, and we've done that with x-intercepts and y-intercepts, or you could just do any 2 points that are on the line. Another way to graph a line is to use the point of the y-intercept and the slope of the line. So you are going to be taking some notes, probably a combination of page 70 and graph paper is the best way to go. If you prefer to just use graph paper, that's fine too. Just using page 70, not fine. So we're going to launch right in. The steps to graphing with the slope and the y-intercept. First thing you're going to do, so jot these down. Plot the y-intercept on the y-axis. And this is shown already there in the middle of page 70, but you should plot the point, you should add to that point is the y-intercept. Then you're going to count out the slope from the y-intercept. You count up or down for the rise, and then left or right for the run. Now you'll have 2 points, the y-intercept and where the slope ended, and draw your line with your straight edge. Notice down here, this is a good thing to write down, that when you have a positive slope, you should be counting to the rise will go up and then over to the right, so you get a positive slope. When you have a negative slope, you're counting either down and to the right, or you're counting, if we started here, up and to the left so that you get something negative. So either up and left or down and right for negative slope. Because remember, if you went down and left, that would be 2 negative directions if you think about it on the number line. Down is negative and left is negative. So that would actually be 2 negatives, which would make your line have a positive slope instead. So set up a coordinate plane. We're going to do some graphing. Okay, you can pause the video to give it a try on your own, or certainly to get your coordinate plane set up. And we're going to graph this line that you can hardly see the stuff for. There we go. It has a slope of -2/5 and a y-intercept of 4. And notice I left all the directions here for you so you could read them again, although you should have them on your paper. So step 1, plot the point of the y-intercept. It better be on the y-axis because it's the y-intercept. Right, so that's at 4. Right, as a point, that's 0, 4. Then our slope is -2/5. Now they didn't leave us a lot of options on this graph that came with the textbook, right? Because if I go up 2, I'm kind of off the edge, right? So let's go down 2 instead. There's a rise of -2, so we go down 1, down 2, and then right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And notice I'm counting the jumps or the spaces. I'm not counting lines. Right, so it's like you're basically just drawing the triangle to the dimensions that you need. And the dimensions that we needed were a run of 5 and a rise of -2. Then I take my straight edge, which I don't have one handy, so I'll use the ruler tool here. Let's see if I can draw a decent line. The answer is not so much. So, right, yours should be better. Yours should actually go through the points. Let's see if I try one more time. Oh, that's pretty good. So ignore the first line and pay attention to my second line. That's what you should have. Here, I'll go over it in blue. It'll be pretty good. Arrow tips, all the usual jazz. Let's do one more. Draw another coordinate plane. You do this one where you pause the video, try it yourself, and then come back and check to see if you're right. Okay, now you've had a chance to pause and restart. Let's check it out. So we have a y-intercept of -1/2. Okay, it's not quite as easy as when it's a whole number or integer, but we can do that. So we got negative 1/2. Here's my y-intercept. And I have a slope of 4. Wait, it doesn't have rise over run. It only has 4. So that would be the rise. But any integer can be written over 1, right, and still be that number. So we have a run of 1 and a rise of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I don't really want to point there. Undo, undo, undo. And then a run of 1, and it is positive, so I should be going to the right. And I end right here at 1, 3.5. And then I take my ruler and I draw my line. I'm going to set the microphone down so I can draw it. Pretty good. And there you have your line. A nice steep line because slope is 4. That's pretty big, right? You should expect a nice steep line there. Positive slope goes up to the right. Now, hopefully you're seeing why we learned about counting slope on Friday. Just a little reminder, if you have no denominator, put it over 1. So let's move on to topic number 2. So topic 1 was graphing. Now we're going to talk about slope-intercept form of the line. And there is a spot for this in that box up near the top of the page by key concepts. The slope-intercept form of the line is y equals mx plus b. This is adding to the alphabet soup. Remember, we also have standard form. And standard form has different letters, mostly. ax plus by equals c. And we have the slope formula. So we got a lot of alphabet soup going on. M is the slope, and B is the y-intercept. And we don't use y for the y-intercept because then it would get confused with the x and y that stay in the equation. M and B get filled in with things, but y and x stay in the equation. So we're going to try a few. Just picking out what the slope and the y-intercept is. We're just going to do this one, and then you're going to write me the equations next. So the slope is always the number that comes before x, so that's 2. The y-intercept is the constant. It's not the number in front of y. It's not the number in front of x, right? It's the constant. So that would be 3. And then I could graph that if I wanted. That's where we're heading next, after we write some equations. If I give you that slope and that intercept, you should be able to write the equation. These are the easiest, cheesiest problems of this section. You should get 100% on these. This is just plugging the numbers in. There's absolutely no math to be done except for knowing what the slope-intercept form is. So 1/4 goes in place of m, 4 goes in place of b. That's it. Y equals 1/4 x plus 4. I know you're wishing that your problem set had 20 of those on it, but it won't. Now you do one. Okay. Slope is -9. Y-intercept is -5/4. Plug it in. You should have it done. If not, pause the video. And slope is -9. It goes in front of x. Y-intercept is -5/4. It goes at the end. Done. That's it. That's all you have to do. Now, graphing from the equation in slope-intercept form, instead of just being told what the slope and the y-intercept are, which is what the first 2 graphs you did were. But really, they are telling you exactly what the slope and the y-intercept are because they're right there in the equation. We know what the slope is, right? And you can certainly write these directions again, but really you don't need to because these are the same directions that you had up in the boxes in the middle of the page there on page 70, right? It's just a matter maybe of going back in and on this equation before you set up your coordinate plane, reminding yourself 3 is the slope, -1, make sure you pay attention to those minus signs, is the y-intercept. So set up your coordinate plane, pause the video if you need to, and then see if you can graph it. Then come back and you can check your work. Now you're back. Let's check your work. Y-intercept is -1. Put a point there at -1, 0, -1. And the slope is 3, which means really that the slope is 3 over 1. So our rise is 3 and our run is 1. So rise 1, 2, 3, run 1. It's positive, so we know we're going the right way. And then draw your line. That wasn't a very good line. I totally missed. Let's see if we can do one more time. Okay, well, I erased most of it anyway. Okay, let's see if this will turn out better. There we go. Okay, now we have a nice looking line. Sorry, I'm such a perfectionist. I can't leave ugly lines there. It drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. Ready to try another one on your own? If you didn't do that one on your own, try this one on your own. Now, it's a little bit tricky, but they gave you a hint right here. Y equals 2/3 x or 2/3 x plus 0. Pause it. Come back in a minute. Now you're back. So you have your y-intercept at 0, 0 at the origin. Totally fine. If there's no y-intercept, then the y-intercept is at the origin. And then we have a slope of 2/3 rise over run. Feel free to keep labeling it until it becomes automatic for you. So we're going to rise 2, 1, 2, and we're going to run 3. I'm starting to get the feeling I should have done more negative slopes. There weren't very many in here. We'll do some in class then. And it's a pretty flat line, which makes sense because it's less than 1. And we're going to put our ruler up here. Let's see if I can do it on the first try. Oh, looking good. You can hear the ruler actually banging around. I'm really using a physical ruler. A yardstick, actually. No, wait, it's a meter stick. One more topic. So we kind of have like 4 topics today. Can you graph given when you're told the slope and the intercept? Can you graph when it's given to you in equation form? Can you write the slope and the intercept into slope-intercept form? And then the last thing is, if I tell you the slope and I give you any point on the graph, so instead of giving you the y-intercept, right, but I tell you just any random point on the graph, can you then write the equation in slope-intercept form? And there's a couple ways to do this. You could actually do this by graphing. And so here's the first one we're going to work through. You are going to write this down either on your graph paper or there's a big space there on page 70. You can use that. So you could graph this, right? You could plot the point 3, 4, just estimating, right? And then you could count the slope, 2 over 1, right? Run 1, rise over run. So rise 2, run 1. So we're going to get a line that looks something like this. Okay? Now that's probably not very accurate because I didn't use graph paper, but we could do that, and then we could figure out what the y-intercept is. We know the slope, and we could write the line. That would work. As a matter of fact, I had lots of students who did that all year long. Whenever they would get this kind of problem, that's how they would choose to solve it, because they could always remember how to graph it, and then they could just pick out the y-intercept off the graph. There is an algebraic way to do it, though, too. Okay? We can actually take that point, 3, 4, and we plug it into the equation. So if you need to write that step down, you probably should. Right? Now's a good time to do that. Plug in everything we know. So we know x, we know y, and we know m. We plug it all in. And we get 4 is the y coordinate, m is 2, x is 3, and what we don't know, what we're trying to find out, is the y-intercept. We're trying to find out b. And now we solve for it. 4 equals 6 plus b. I told you my graph wasn't very good. And that means that b actually equals -2 when I subtract 6 from each side. Now I'm not done yet because it didn't ask me just to tell the y-intercept. What it really asked me was to give the equation in slope-intercept form. But now I have all the pieces. I know the slope. I know the y-intercept. So I go back and I write it in slope-intercept form. The slope is 2. The y-intercept is -2. You can write it as -2, or you can write it as plus -2. Both are correct. This is a little bit tricky, so if you didn't catch it, you can rewind and watch that again. And I'm going to do one more for you. We'll talk about this again in class, though, because this is a big idea that you need to be able to do. So here we go. A line has a slope of 8, and 3, -1 is on the line. So we know 1 point on the line, and we know the slope. Write the equation that describes this line in slope-intercept form. If you're feeling comfortable and confident, go ahead and give it a try on your own. If I totally lost you the last problem, then stick with me and we'll just talk through it. So m is 8. One ordered pair is 3, -1. That's on the line. So I'm going to find the y-intercept by plugging in everything I know to the slope-intercept form of the line. And I get -1 equals 8 times 3 plus b. And now I just use regular old algebra equation solving techniques to solve for b. And I get b equals -25 after I subtract 24 from each side. And we're so far along in equation solving now that I don't always show all of those steps. Feel free to show them if they help you, showing -24 from each side, but I don't feel the need to do that for you every single time. So now I know m, and I know b. That's not the answer, right? The answer is the equation in slope-intercept form. So I take my information and I plug it back into the slope-intercept form. So y equals mx, that's 8x, minus 25. And we're going to stop there for today. There is more, not the same stuff, but even more stuff in this lesson that's different than what we've done so far. And that's why we're going to save that for tomorrow night, because that'll just be way too much all at once. So we're going to stop here, and we'll be back tomorrow.